At 96 years old, when most people are slowing down, one Nobel Prize winner was still mentally sharp, physically active, and deeply engaged with life. When journalists asked the obvious question, "What's your secret?" they expected a supplement, a superfood, or some rare longevity formula. But the answer shocked everyone. It wasn't expensive, it wasn't exotic, and it certainly wasn't what modern nutrition trends are constantly selling. It was simple, humble, and deeply aligned with how the human body was designed to thrive. This story forces us to question one of the biggest myths of aging, that decline is inevitable, and that living past 90 means suffering, weakness, and dependency. Science now tells a very different story. Longevity research consistently shows that long life is not about doing more, but about removing what harms the body and supporting what heals it. The Nobel laureate's daily habit centered on simple, whole, traditionally prepared foods, foods that nourish the gut, calm inflammation, and stabilize blood sugar. These are the same principles found in blue zones, the regions where people routinely live past 100. One key element of this lifestyle was fermented, whole plant-based nourishment, foods that support the microbiome. Modern science confirms what traditional cultures always knew. Your gut bacteria regulate inflammation, immunity, hormone balance, and even how fast you age. They told us that living past 90 requires a cabinet full of pills, daily supplements stacked like trophies, and miracle powders shipped from across the world. But the truth uncovered by science and lived by the longest living humans on Earth is far more uncomfortable and far more powerful, because longevity has never belonged to supplements. It belongs to simplicity. In the world's blue zones, where people routinely live beyond 100 with strong legs, sharp minds, and independence until their final days, researchers discovered something shocking. The people who lived the longest consumed the fewest supplements, relied on no anti-aging formulas, and often didn't even know what a vitamin pill was, yet their blood markers showed lower inflammation, stronger immunity, and slower cellular aging than people decades younger. Modern science now confirms what these elders lived by instinct, that chronic disease and accelerated aging are not caused by nutrient deficiency alone, but by toxic overload from ultra-processed foods that confuse hormones, damage mitochondria, and inflame every cell in the body. Over 60% of what fills grocery shelves today did not exist 100 years ago, and studies show that ultra-processed foods increase mortality risk by up to 62%, even when calorie intake is controlled, meaning it's not how much you eat, it's what the food does inside your body after you swallow it. Every artificial flavor, refined oil, and chemical preservative forces the liver into constant detox mode, diverting energy away from repair, immunity, and regeneration. And over decades, this silent burden accelerates aging far more than a lack of any single vitamin ever could. A Nobel Prize-winning biologist once said that aging is not caused by time, but by accumulated cellular damage. And the fastest way humans create that damage today is through processed foods that spike blood sugar, oxidize cholesterol, and inflame the gut lining with every bite. Research from Harvard revealed that chronic low-grade inflammation, not genetics, is the primary driver of heart disease, dementia, arthritis, and cancer, and inflammation is fueled most aggressively by refined carbohydrates, seed oils, and synthetic additives masquerading as food. The elders who lived longest didn't chase antioxidants in capsules. They avoided foods that created oxidative stress in the first place, allowing their bodies to maintain balance without constant chemical warfare. Your body was designed to heal itself, but it can only do so when it's not fighting an endless war against artificial ingredients, excess sugar, and refined starches that hijack insulin and age the arteries faster than smoking ever did. One study showed that just 7 days of eating whole, unprocessed foods reduced inflammatory markers more than some prescription drugs, proving that food removal can be more powerful than food addition. The longest living humans weren't obsessed with what to add, but what to remove, and this single mindset shift rewires the body from survival mode back into repair mode. Scientists now know that mitochondria, the energy engines of your cells, are exquisitely sensitive to processed foods, and damaged mitochondria accelerate muscle loss, brain fog, and fatigue. The very symptoms we blame on aging, but are actually signs of nutritional overload. When you simplify the diet, mitochondria regenerate, energy returns, and tissues repair themselves in ways that no supplement can replicate. because pills cannot replace biological harmony. Even calcium supplements, long promoted for aging bones, have been linked to increased arterial calcification, while populations who relied on whole foods showed stronger bones without supplementation, highlighting a truth modern medicine is only beginning to admit: isolated nutrients behave differently than nutrients consumed in their natural food matrix. Simplicity protects the gut, and the gut determines lifespan more than any supplement ever sold, because 70% of the immune system resides in the intestinal lining, and processed foods erode that lining molecule by molecule. Leaky gut leads to systemic inflammation, and systemic inflammation accelerates aging at the cellular level, shortening telomeres, the protective caps on DNA that determine how fast we age. Studies show that people who eat traditional diets have longer telomeres than those who consume Western diets, regardless of calorie intake, meaning simplicity literally slows biological time. The elders didn't count calories, track macros, or fear food, because their diets were clean by default, composed of foods their grandparents recognized, prepared simply, eaten slowly, and shared with others. Longevity was never about control, it was about alignment with biology. Every supplement promises youth in a bottle, yet global data shows that supplement-heavy populations are not the longest living, while the simplest diets repeatedly correlate with the greatest lifespan and health span. The body does not need to be hacked, it needs to be respected. Remove the processed foods and inflammation drops. Remove the constant snacking and insulin stabilizers. Remove the chemical load and organs finally have the space to heal. The miracle was never in what they added, it was in what they refused to eat. And that is why the longest living humans on Earth aged slowly, died quickly, and lived fully, not because they discovered something new, but because they never abandoned what the human body always needed. They expect you to believe that the secret to a long life is hidden in something exotic, rare, or expensive, but science keeps circling back to a truth so ordinary that most people overlook it, because the food that quietly extends human life is not a supplement, not a superfood powder, and not a laboratory creation. It is a simple, whole, traditional food that humans have eaten for thousands of years without fanfare. Across cultures with the highest life expectancy, researchers noticed one common thread that refused to disappear: daily consumption of a humble, protein-rich, mineral-dense food that nourishes muscle, feeds the brain, stabilizes blood sugar, and supports cellular repair at the deepest level. Modern studies now confirm that this food triggers pathways linked to longevity, including improved insulin sensitivity, reduced inflammation, and activation of cellular recycling systems known as autophagy, the same mechanism stimulated by fasting but without starvation. As humans age, muscle loss accelerates not because protein disappears from the diet, but because the body becomes resistant to amino acid signaling, a condition called anabolic resistance, which silently steals strength, balance, and independence. Research shows that older adults require fewer foods but higher quality protein, and this particular food delivers bioavailable amino acids in a form the aging body can actually absorb and use, unlike processed protein products that pass through unused. Muscle is not just about movement, it is an endocrine organ that regulates blood sugar, immune strength, and metabolic health, and every gram of muscle preserved after age 60 reduces mortality risk significantly. One landmark study revealed that people with higher muscle mass live longer regardless of weight, proving that frailty, not fat, is the true predictor of early death. This food also supplies critical micronutrients like calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, and vitamin K2, which work together to strengthen bones while keeping calcium out of arteries, a balance that supplements routinely fail to achieve. Scientists now understand that calcium alone does not build bone, and without K2, it can harden blood vessels instead, increasing heart attack risk. Yet traditional diets naturally paired these nutrients long before science gave them names. The aging brain depends on stable blood sugar and anti-inflammatory nutrients, and this food provides both, preventing the sharp glucose spikes that damage neurons and accelerate cognitive decline. Neurodegenerative diseases are now linked to insulin resistance in the brain, sometimes called type 3 diabetes, and diets built around whole stable foods dramatically reduce this risk. Gut health plays a decisive role in lifespan, and this food supports beneficial bacteria that regulate immunity, mood and inflammation, creating a microbiome environment associated with longer telomeres and slower biological aging. Inflammation is the silent fire that shortens life, and studies show that individuals who regularly consume this traditional food exhibit lower markers of C-reactive protein, a key predictor of heart disease and early death. What shocks researchers is not that this food works, but that it works without complexity, without timing hacks, and without bioengineering, simply by aligning with human biology. In populations that live past 100, this food is not eaten occasionally, it is consumed consistently, often in modest amounts, proving that longevity is built through daily habits, not extreme interventions. The body repairs itself during sleep, and when nourished properly beforehand, muscle protein synthesis increases overnight, bones remodel more efficiently, and the nervous system stabilizes stress hormones that would otherwise accelerate aging. Clinical trials show that consuming slow-digesting natural protein before rest reduces muscle breakdown by up to 30% in older adults, preserving strength even without intense exercise. This is not about eating more, but eating smarter, because overnutrition ages the body just as aggressively as deficiency. Longevity researchers emphasize that calorie quality matters more than calorie quantity, and this food delivers nourishment without metabolic chaos. The simplicity is what makes it powerful, because the body recognizes it, processes it efficiently, and uses it fully. Unlike ultra-processed foods that create oxidative stress, this food lowers oxidative burden, allowing DNA repair mechanisms to function without interference. Cells age when repair cannot keep up with damage, and nutrition determines which side wins. This food also supports hormone balance, stabilizing cortisol and supporting growth hormone release, both essential for tissue repair and metabolic resilience as we age. Growth hormone declines naturally with age, but nutritional signals can preserve its activity, slowing physical decline without drugs. What modern medicine often overlooks is that the body responds best to signals it evolved with, not synthetic imitations. Longevity is not extended by forcing the body to perform, but by removing obstacles to its natural repair systems. This is why people who eat simply, consistently, and traditionally often outlive those chasing nutritional perfection. The miracle is not hidden in complexity, it is hidden in alignment. When the body is fed what it recognizes, inflammation quiets, muscles strengthen, bones stabilize, and the mind clears. Not because aging stops, but because damage slows. The longest lives are not built through fear of aging, but through trust in biology. And that is why this single ordinary food continues to appear in the diets of the world's longest living humans, not as a cure, not as a trend, but as a quiet, daily companion to a long, resilient life. They rarely tell you that the body doesn't age simply because of years passing. It ages because it never gets the quiet time it needs to repair. And the way we eat today, constantly, hurriedly, and excessively, has stolen that repair window from almost everyone. Modern research now shows that how and when you eat can accelerate aging just as powerfully as what you eat, and this truth becomes impossible to ignore after the age of 60, when the body's margin for error grows smaller and every habit leaves a deeper mark. For most of human history, people did not eat from morning until midnight. They ate modest meals at regular times and then allowed the body to rest. This rhythm wasn't a diet, it was biology, and biology still expects it. Studies published in Cell Metabolism reveal that constant snacking keeps insulin elevated all day, and chronically high insulin blocks autophagy, the cellular cleanup process responsible for removing damaged proteins, dysfunctional mitochondria, and precancerous cells. When autophagy is suppressed, aging accelerates silently. Autophagy is not optional. It is one of the body's most powerful anti-aging mechanisms, and it only turns on when digestion rests. Every time we eat, autophagy turns off. When we eat again too soon, repair never begins. This explains a shocking finding in longevity research. People who eat less often, but not less nutritiously, live longer, even when calories are the same. It is the eating window, not just the food, that controls repair. In studies of centenarians, researchers found that many naturally stopped eating early in the evening, not by force but by habit. This early stop allowed the body to enter a prolonged overnight repair state, reducing inflammation, stabilizing hormones, and preserving muscle. Late-night eating, by contrast, has been linked to increased mortality, higher cancer risk, and faster cognitive decline. Eating when the body expects rest disrupts circadian rhythms, the internal clock that governs hormone release, immune function, and cellular regeneration. Your liver, the organ responsible for detoxification and metabolic balance, follows a clock. When food arrives late at night, the liver shifts from repair to digestion, delaying detoxification and increasing oxidative stress. Over years, this accelerates aging at the cellular level. Portion size matters just as much. Research shows that overeating, even healthy foods, triggers inflammation and increases oxidative damage. The longest living populations consistently stop eating before feeling full, a practice known in Okinawa as hara-hachi-bu, eating to 80% fullness. Science now confirms that mild caloric restraint activates longevity pathways like AMPK and sirtuins, genes associated with DNA repair and lifespan extension. This is not starvation, it is restraint. Eating slowly plays a hidden role. It takes time for satiety hormones like leptin and cholecystokinin to signal fullness. Fast eating bypasses these signals, leading to excess intake and metabolic stress. Studies show slow eaters have better blood sugar control and lower inflammation. Stress while eating changes digestion. When the nervous system is in fight or flight mode, stomach acid drops, enzyme production decreases, and nutrient absorption suffers. Eating calmly improves digestion more than adding supplements ever could. This is why many long-lived individuals treat meals as moments of rest, not interruption. They sit, they chew, they breathe, and their bodies respond by absorbing nutrients efficiently and storing less damage. Meal timing also affects muscle preservation. Research shows that spreading protein intake evenly across meals preserves muscle better than loading it all at once. Small regular nourishment prevents muscle breakdown without overwhelming digestion. The body repairs muscle primarily at night. Consuming digestible nourishment earlier in the evening supports overnight muscle synthesis, while heavy late meals disrupt sleep and blunt growth hormone release. Growth hormone is a powerful anti-aging hormone, and it peaks during deep sleep if digestion is quiet. Sleep itself is one of the strongest predictors of longevity, and eating habits directly influence sleep quality. Poor sleep accelerates aging, impairs immunity, and increases dementia risk. One study showed that disrupted sleep shortens lifespan as much as smoking. The shock is not that modern diets fail, but that modern schedules sabotage biology. We eat too often, too late, too much, and too distracted, then wonder why the body breaks down early. Longevity is not built through restriction alone, but through rhythm. Rhythm tells the body when to digest and when to repair. Without rhythm, repair never wins. The body is resilient, but it needs silence to heal. Silence from insulin spikes, silence from digestion, silence from metabolic chaos. This is why simplifying meal timing often produces dramatic improvements in energy, clarity, and strength even before food quality changes. The body finally gets permission to heal. Centenarians did not fast intentionally, but they fasted naturally by eating early dinners and waiting until morning to eat again. This gentle overnight fast preserved insulin sensitivity and reduced inflammation year after year. Longevity researchers now agree that intermittent fasting mimics traditional eating patterns humans evolved with, activating survival and repair pathways without stress. But the most powerful insight is this: the body does not need perfection, it needs consistency. A regular eating window, modest portions, and calm meals create an internal environment where aging slows instead of accelerates. Aging is not caused by eating food, it is caused by never stopping. When the body is allowed to rest from digestion, it turns inward and repairs. Cells clean themselves, hormones rebalance, inflammation quiets. The longest living humans were not obsessed with diets, they lived in harmony with time.